Hello, students. Uh, so let's start with our next chapter, which is the preamble of the Indian Constitution. So by now we know what the Constitution of India is. We have done a basic introduction on the same. So what is the preamble of the Indian Constitution? Let's look at that. Preamble of the Indian Constitution is nothing but like an introductory page or a preface to the Indian Constitution. If you read a book or if you read a novel, you will often see that the beginning of the book or the beginning of the novel, it comes with a page known as the preface or the introduction. What does that basically do? It gives you a basic idea or a summary, a brief summary or a basic idea of what you are going to read in detail in the book later on. Okay? So, in a similar fashion, the Constitution of India has something known as a preamble. So, the preamble is nothing other than the introductory page or the preface of a book that I just discussed. What the preamble does is that it gives a basic idea of the ideology behind the Constitution, and it tells us that when we will read the rest of the Constitution in detail, what will the Constitution basically talk about. Okay, and now let's look at the history of the preamble. Preamble was basically based on the objective resolutions. What is objective resolution? Objective resolution were a set of resolutions which were drafted by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru in the Constituent Assembly, which basically talked about the ideas which need to be mentioned in the Constitution of India. And this objective resolution was passed on December 13, 1946. Based on these objective resolutions, the Assembly came up with the preamble of the Indian Constitution. Now, as I said, India has borrowed certain parts of the Constitution from certain other countries. The idea for preamble was borrowed from the American constitutions from the USA. Now, another important thing, the preamble has been called as the ID card of the Constitution by N.A. Palkhiwala. Now, what does this basically mean? You go to a college or you go to school, you have an ID card from an institution. Does your ID card give all the details about you to the other person? It does not. But but if a person looks at your ID card, which you're wearing on your neck in your college, looking at your ID card, the other person can get an introductory or a basic idea that who you are, what your name is, which class you are from, which stream you are from, so on and so forth. Similarly, the preamble is also the ID card of the Constitution. How? Because it is not giving you the detail of the Constitution. It is not giving you in detail what you are going to read. It is not talking about fundamental rights or duties or DPSPs or whatever, but it is going to give you an idea that what you are going to read ahead. I hope it is clear to everyone. Now, a fact about the Constitution, an important fact about the Constitution is that when the Constituent Assembly was enacting our Constitution, when the Constituent Assembly was enacting our Constitution, they did not enact the preamble along with the rest of the part of the Constitution. They did not enact it together. The rest or the main body of the Constitution was enacted before, and later on the preamble was enacted by the Constituent Assembly. Now see, now look at the preamble. Preamble is divided into certain parts if we read it carefully. We, the people of India, this thing, this is the source of the preamble or the source of the Constitution. Okay, then these things, sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, this thing is known as the nature of our state or nature of the country, like what kind of country we are living in. And justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity, These things are the goals of the constitution, goals or objectives, goals or objectives of the constitution. What does it mean? Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, they are goals, basically means that our objective wishes to accomplish these things in the society. And sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, this is the nature of our state, which basically means that what kind of country we are living in. What kind of country is it? Is it a democratic or a monarch country? It is a democratic country. Is it a sovereign country or a suzerain country? It's a sovereign country. Is it a communist country or a socialist country? It is a socialist country. So on and so forth. And in the end, this is the venue, like where was it enacted? Constituent Assembly, and the date, 26th day of November 1949. Now let's go ahead and see what are the further details. Now, as I said, it is an introduction. It gives you the essence or the basic features of the constitution. It is like an ID card, because it will, just like a human ID card, it will tell you that what are you looking at, but it will not tell you the further detail. It was based on the objective resolutions passed by Pandit Nehru, and preamble has been amended one time. Earlier we just saw the different words, right? Earlier certain words, I'll teach you in the next slide, certain words were not there, but these words were added by the 42nd Amendment Act, which is also known as the mini constitution of India. Also, another important point about the preamble is that preamble is non-justiciable in nature. Now, what does it mean? It basically means that while a court, Supreme Court, High Court, whatever, when a court is giving its judgment or passing its judgment, the court cannot use the preamble to enforce its judgment. Court cannot give a judgment on the basis of the preamble only. Okay, it is not enforceable by law. Fundamental rights are enforceable by law. A court can give a judgment based on fundamental rights, but a court cannot give a judgment based on the preamble. Hence, a preamble is not justiciable by nature. Now, the nature of the state. The first term we had was sovereign. What does sovereign mean? Sovereign, as I said, in layman's language, sovereign means apne marzi ka malik. What does sovereign mean? That you are the king of your own mind, you are the king of your own will. So now sovereignty is also of two types: external sovereignty and internal sovereignty. India has both external sovereignty and internal sovereignty as well. So sovereignty basically means that India as a country is not answerable to anyone else. Whatever India wants to do, whether India wants to create a new state, say, or say India wants to create a new reservation for a new committee, India can do it on its own. India does not have to go and ask Britain or US that can I do it or not. It is completely up to India. Now, there are two types of sovereignty, external and internal. External sovereignty basically means that the Indian government is free from any kind of external pressure or any other external country, foreign country, while making its own decisions. The Indian government does not have to go to any other foreign power for their permission. For example, if the government wants to pass a law tomorrow, they don't have to go and ask the permission of the British anymore, or they don't have to go and ask the Americans that can I pass this law or not. Then we have internal sovereignty as well. What is internal sovereignty? That people are sovereign to elect their own government. There is no pressure on the people to choose a certain government internally within the country. People are the makers of their own will. If they want to vote for BJP, if they want to vote for Congress, if they want to vote for AAP, if they want to vote for CPM, any other party, it is up to them. It is their wish. They do not have to be answerable to anyone regarding who they are voting for and regarding who they are electing as their government to govern them. That is internal sovereignty. Then we are a socialist state. Now, the term socialist, it was not there in the initial preamble which was enacted on 26 January 1950. This term, socialist, was added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. Now, what is socialism? See, socialism has various types. For example, communism, Fabian socialism, Gandhian socialism, so on and so forth. Now, communist socialism is an extreme type of socialism which India does not follow. India follows Gandhian and Fabian socialism. What does that mean? It basically means that the policies have to be made in such a way that development is inclusive in nature. Both rich and poor alike are a part of the developmental process. There is development of the village and cottage industries along with the urban cities and the urban industries and factories. And there is bridging of gap between the rich and the poor, which basically means not letting the rich getting richer and poor getting poorer. There should not be a situation like that in our country. This is the type of socialism which India follows. The Supreme Court has made it clear in the DS Nakara case. In the DS Nakara case, the Supreme Court has made it clear that we don't follow any communism or Marxist socialism. We follow Gandhian socialism and Fabian socialism, which basically means that we like to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. And why is this done? This is done to raise the quality of living so that people come out of poverty, people get access to basic needs like health, education, housing, water, food, so on and so forth. Then the next nature of our state, secular. What is secular? This term was also not there in the original constitution. It was added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Now, what is secular? Secular basically means that everybody has their own right to follow the religion of their choice. If somebody is born in a Hindu family, it does not mean that the person has to be Hindu their whole life. They can choose their religion on their own freedom. If someone is born in a Muslim family, if they wish to follow another religion after growing up, it is up to them. So there is freedom of religion, and along with that, the state will not interfere among the religion to promote a state religion or discriminate among them. Basically, secular in India means that India will not have any state religion. India is not a Hindu country or a Muslim country or a Christian country or whatever. We do not have a state religion, and neither will the country discriminate based on religion. Like if two people are applying for a job, whether one is Hindu, another is Muslim, one is Christian, another is Sikh, does not matter. Both of them will be given the equal opportunity to compete for the job. It does not matter, and all of them will be treated equally by the government. Then the next term in the nature of state is democratic. Now, what is democracy? Democracy is basically based on the doctrine of popular sovereignty. What is doctrine of popular sovereignty? Popular sovereignty basically means that a large number of people, based on their own will, without any coercion and forceful behavior, they will have the right, they will have the sovereignty to elect a democratic government of their own choice. So what does basically democratic or democracy mean? It means that the government is elected by the people for governing them, and the government is also held accountable by the people. Say you elect a government today, it does not work properly. They are accountable to you. In the next election, you can vote for the other party and vote the existing party out of power. Also, in India, democracy is in the form of representative parliamentary democracy. Now, what does it mean? It basically means that there is a Parliament of India. The Parliament of India has different seats representing different regions or constituencies of the country. From different regions or different constituencies, we elect one representative from us to go and represent us in the parliament. This is known as the democracy or the representative democracy of India. Then The last one is republic. What does republic mean? Now see, any kind of political structure or democratic polity, to be honest, is mentioned in two types. It is classified into two types. One is monarchy, the other is republic. UK is a democratic monarch. Why? Because the head of the state in UK is the king or the queen, and the next head of the state is the heir to the king or the queen. It is a hereditary monarchy system. The head of the state is not elected. Monarch is present in UK. The head of the state is not elected. It is already present. Although the parliament is elected by the people in Britain, the head of the state is not elected. It is the by default preset king royal family. There is a king or queen and they are succeeded by their heirs. But in India, it is a republic democracy. Why? Because the head of the state in India is the president of India. Okay. And the president of India is elected after every 5 years. For example, now Srimati Draupadi Murmu, she is the president of India. After she completes her tenure of 5 years, we will have an election for the president. It is not like Srimati Murmu's son will become or daughter will become the next president of India. We will discuss the election of the president in Union Executive Article 54 to 55. So these terms, they are the nature of the state. Now let's look at objectives of the Indian state. What are the goals that the Indian Constitution wants to achieve? The first is justice. Now the idea of justice has been borrowed from the Russian Revolution. Okay. And it wants to assure social, economic, and political justice. Now, how is this done? Social and economic justice is ensured by DPSPs, the Directive Principles of State Policy, which we will do in part 4. And political justice is achieved through the FRs or fundamental rights in part 3 of the Constitution. Now, the next goal is equality. The idea of equality has been borrowed from the French Revolution. And what does it say? Equality of status and opportunity. Now, what does it mean? It basically means that there should be an equality of status among all. It does not mean that this person is a high class businessman and this is a beggar from the street. It should not be that this rich businessman or the poor beggar, they should have different status in the society. Both of them are humans, both of them have their own basic human rights. They should have the same status, equal status, and they should be having equal opportunity. Equal opportunity means equal opportunity is mentioned in Article 16, which we will do later on. Equal opportunity basically means whether the two people is standing in front of me, say if there are two people standing in front of me, they want to write an exam. No matter what religion, race, caste they are part of, they should be given the equal opportunity to participate or compete for the opportunity or exam or job, whatever. Then we have something known as liberty. Liberty is also borrowed from the French Revolution. The idea of liberty is borrowed from French Revolution. It talks about liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. What does it mean? We have expression of thought. We should have the liberty of thought and expression, which basically means that we should be free to think. We should be free to express our feelings, whatever we are feeling to express. Along with that, we should be free to believe and faith and worship someone. Basically means we should have a freedom to have faith in whatever God we want to believe. We should have the freedom to worship whatever God we want to worship. And we should have the freedom to express our feelings and thoughts in whatever way we like, as long as it's allowed and does not have any restrictions. Because there are also reasonable restrictions. You have liberty of expression does not mean that you will go out on the streets and start abusing someone or beating up someone. That is illegal in nature. There are certain reasonable restrictions on that. But other than that, every person should have the liberty to think, to express their feelings, and to have faith and worship whatever God they wish to worship. Now, the idea of liberty is also borrowed from French Revolution. Now, the last goal of our constitution is fraternity, also borrowed from French Revolution. What does fraternity mean? Fraternity is basically meant for promoting a feeling of brotherhood and unity. How will it help the nation? It will unite the nation and integrate the nation and prevent it from breaking up. For example, the division of India and Pakistan solely took place because of the absence of fraternity. Why? Because there was no feeling of brotherhood. There was a lower feeling of brotherhood at that time among Indians, which led to the partition, the dreaded partition. But now India wants to achieve fraternity. Why? So that there is a feeling of common brotherhood and the Indians learn to stay together, united peacefully in common coexistence, and to promote the unity and integrity of the nation. Now, if we look here, these words as well, unity and integrity of the nation, these words also have been inserted by the 42nd Amendment Act. So, which words were not which words were not earlier present in the constitution? Socialist, secular, unity and integrity of the nation. These things were not present in the original constitution, in the original preamble. They were added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. I hope it's clear to everyone. And after this, we have after we are done with the source, we the people of India, it is known as the source. Why? Because the Constituent Assembly was elected by the people only, and then the assembly went on to make the constitution for the country. So indirectly, the people of India were only the source of the constitution. The constitution came from the people only through their representatives. Then we saw the nature of our state: sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Then the goals of the state: justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. And then we have the venue, which is the Constituent Assembly, in which the constitution was drafted and enacted, and the date on which it was adopted. The date is the 26th day of November 1949, nothing but 26 November 1949, also known as the Constitution Day in India. Now, what is the significance of this preamble? Why do we need this preamble? Why? Because it's a guiding light to interpret the Constitution. Yes, the court cannot enforce the preamble in a judgment, but the court can always refer to the preamble before giving a judgment. Say if the court is looking at something in the constitution on which it has to base a judgment and it is confused, for doing that, for reading that particular part of the constitution, the court can refer to the idea of the preamble. Although while giving the judgment, the court cannot enforce the preamble in the court judicial judgment. Then amendment to the preamble. One amendment was done, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act, in which the words socialist, secular were added in nature of the state and in goals, in fraternity, unity and integrity of the nation was added. And can the preamble be further amended? Yes, the preamble can be amended further, but it should be made sure that the basic structure of the constitution is not harmed. As I said before, I will discuss it further in the amendment chapter. Basic structure of the constitution basically means that our constitution comes with some basic ideas, some basic ideologies, some basic unique features, or a basic essence. If we take away that essence, then our constitution will lose its original value in itself. So that thing is known as the basic structure. For example, I'm giving you a layman's example. Say if you're coming from a vegetarian family, yes, you can make changes in your food menu at your house every day. Someday you might be having carrots, someday you might be having a broccoli or cauliflower or whatever, but you cannot include chicken or eggs in your diet. Why? Because the basic structure of your family is that you're a vegetarian family. Similarly, Constitution also has some basic features. You can make changes to that, but you cannot tamper the basic structure of the Constitution. For example, some things like fundamental rights. Fundamental rights define the basic structure of the Constitution, and changing the fundamental rights will change the basic structure of the Constitution as well. So things like this are not allowed. Preamble you can change, but while changing the preamble, it should be kept in mind that the basic structure of the Constitution is not harmed. Now, let's look at whether the preamble is a part of the main Constitution or not. Okay. Now, in the Berubari Union case of 1960, the Supreme Court said that the preamble is not a part of the Constitution. This was said in the Berubari Union case of 1960. But later on, in the Keshwanand Bharati decision, in the Keshwanand Bharati case of 1973, Supreme Court took a complete U-turn from its previous judgment on the preamble topic and said that they are overruling their own Berubari case decision, and they said Supreme Court in Keshwanand Bharati case that the preamble is a part of the Constitution and it can be amended subject to the basic structure doctrine. Basic structure doctrine evolved from this. What basically happened is that in Berubari Union case, the Supreme Court said, oh no, the preamble is not a part of the Constitution. Okay. But later on in Keshwanand Bharati case, the Supreme Court took a complete U-turn. It overruled its own decision only and said that yes, the preamble is a part of the Constitution. It is a part of the Constitution and it can also be amended or changed just like the rest of the Constitution. But it should be kept in mind by the Parliament or the government that the basic structure or the basic idea or ideology or essence of our Constitution should not be harmed. And from this, the basic structure doctrine evolved, which I'll discuss in detail in the amendment chapter. Then again in the LIC of India case 1995, the Supreme Court upheld its previous Keshwanand Bharati decision that preamble is a part of India and the preamble is a part of the Constitution and it is also an integral part of the Constitution. So what is the current situation of the Constitution according to the court? The preamble, that the preamble is a part of the Constitution. It is recognized as a part of the Constitution by the court, but it is not enforceable by law. It cannot be enforced by the court while giving a judgment, but the court can always refer to the preamble while giving its judgment, although the preamble itself cannot be enforced in the judgment. Now, preamble is neither a source of power nor limitation on powers of the government. Now see, since preamble is not enforceable by law, the preamble is not a source of any power because the preamble is not giving any kind of special powers to the government. Okay. And neither is the preamble a limitation on the powers of government because preamble is not putting any limitations also. Have you seen anything in the preamble which says this power is given to the parliament or this power is taken away from the parliament? No, right? And preamble is not justiciable by law also. So by common sense, the preamble does not give any power. It is not a source of power. Neither is it a limitation on power for the parliament. So yeah, that will be it for preamble, our second chapter. So we will wrap up here. Thank you, everyone. We will be moving ahead to the next chapter now. The next chapter is part 1 of the Constitution, the Union and its territories. Thank you.